He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near that gun. Think about it. He was the cook. His daily grind involved stacking rice, ladling out stew, maybe pouring a comforting cup of coffee while the sounds of distant shells tore through the Bataan air. But then, in a terrifying instant, every single cannoneer lay dead or wounded. The gun, a vital piece of the defense, fell silent. So what did Sergeant Jose Calugas do? He didn't hesitate. He tossed aside his ladle, sprinted 1,000 yards, that's almost a kilometer, through open, hellish fire, reached the gun, and with hands that would soon be bleeding, he cranked the breech. He fired. He kept firing until the relentless Japanese advance, which had seemed unstoppable, finally shuddered to a halt. This one Filipino cook, against all odds, saved an entire American artillery battery and earned the United States' highest award for valor. Yet, shockingly, most people still don't know his name. Doesn't that just feel wrong? The morning of January 16, 1942, on the Bataan Peninsula, was already a grim one. Starvation was a constant companion. American and Filipino troops, their bodies weakened by half rations of weevil-laced rice, clung desperately to the rugged jungle hills. They were buying precious time for a nation still reeling from the shock of Pearl Harbor. Among these weary soldiers was Jose Calugas, a 34-year-old mess sergeant from Iloilo. He joined the U.S. Army's Philippine Scouts 12 years prior for the most fundamental of reasons: a steady paycheck to support a family that had lost its mother far too soon. He was a provider, a caregiver, a cook. He could never have imagined that destiny, in its cruel and unpredictable way, was about to hand him a cannon. War didn't just knock on the door, it burst into Manila on December 8, 1941. The very same day as Pearl Harbor, thanks to that pesky dateline. Within a matter of weeks, relentless Japanese bombers had turned places like Fort Stotzenburg into smoldering ash, forcing General MacArthur's beleaguered army to retreat onto that stubborn, thumb-shaped peninsula known as Bataan. Calugas's 88th Field Artillery Regiment found themselves in a desperate struggle. They dragged their heavy 75mm guns through thick mud, set them up precariously in flooded rice paddies, and fired until the paint on the barrels literally blistered from the heat. The situation was dire. Supply ships attempting to reach them were sunk. Vital medicine seemed to evaporate, and malaria swept through the lines like wildfire. It got so bad that men grimly joked that if the bombs somehow missed them, the mosquitoes would surely finish the job. Yet despite the incredible hardship, despite the despair, every single dawn saw the ominous shadow of the rising sun creeping closer. That fateful January 16th, Calugas was doing his usual supervising breakfast detail near Coulisses. But the routine was shattered. Japanese artillery suddenly zeroed in with terrifying precision on an exposed gun section. A shell burst, tearing through the air, and the entire crew collapsed. The critical field piece fell silent, a gaping hole in the defenses, while enemy spotters, emboldened by their success, began adjusting their fire onto nearby trenches. No one gave him an order. Calugas simply vaulted out of the relative safety of his cooking trench. He sprinted, covering the length of 9 football fields, an incredible 1,000 yards, through a maelstrom of bursting 105mm shells. He skidded into the gun pit, the air thick with dust and the smell of cordite, to find splintered wood, broken gun trails, and the grim sight of 3 dead gunners. But he didn't falter. He quickly rallied 9 dazed stragglers, men who were probably paralyzed by fear and shock. Together, he had them reset the gun on its wooden blocks, and with blistered palms, he cranked the elevation wheel himself. Then, they began firing. One man swabbing the barrel, another ramming the shell home, Calugas himself yanking the lanyard, a relentless rhythm of survival. Each time, the powerful recoil slammed the piece back, and thick smoke masked the ridge, providing a temporary reprieve. The sheer audacity and effectiveness of their counterfire worked. The Japanese barrage slackened, giving the American lines precious moments to reorganize and shore up their defenses. It was only then, with the immediate danger somewhat abated, that Calugas finally noticed the warm, sticky blood pooling in his shoes, a testament to his incredible, almost superhuman effort. Word of this incredible exploit, this act of sheer defiant courage, quickly filtered up the chain of command. On February 24th, headquarters officially announced the Medal of Honor for Sergeant Calugas. But Bataan, by this point, was a place of utter desperation. There were no shiny medals to be pinned on anyone's chest, only rusted rifles, tattered uniforms, and the chilling certainty of impending encirclement. The grim reality was so pervasive that everyone, including Calugas himself, probably assumed the citation would be posthumous. Surrender, the final heartbreaking act of a brutal defense, felt like it was only days away. The highest honor for valor was announced in a place where hope was a fading memory and survival was the only prize. April 9th, 1942. It's a date seared into history. After 4 grueling months of fighting on what amounted to a single cup of rice a day, 76,000 Filipino and American troops, utterly exhausted and starving, staggered out of the jungle. Their orders: lay down arms. The victors, the Japanese Imperial Army, then began to herd them north toward Camp O'Donnell in a horrifying trek that would forever be remembered as the Bataan Death March. Imagine the scene. Calugas, like countless others, walked barefoot, his shoes having been cruelly stolen at bayonet point. When he dared to pause, just for a moment, to help a struggling buddy, a guard slammed a rifle butt across his skull, reopening a gash from earlier shrapnel. For 3 unimaginable days, the column moved without a single drop of water. Bodies, broken and lifeless, lined the road like discarded toys, a chilling testament to the brutality. Calugas, with incredible resilience, survived by sipping condensation from leaves and cleverly feigning severe malaria tremors. This ruse, ironically, kept the guards moving him along, rather than executing him for perceived weakness. At the Capas railhead, the survivors were crammed into boxcars so tightly, so inhumanely, that when the doors finally rolled open in Tarlac, men on the edges had to literally hold up the inner ones who had died standing upright, suffocated and crushed. By the time Calugas reached the camp, he weighed a mere 90 pounds. It's a miracle he was still breathing. Camp O'Donnell wasn't just a prison, it was a death camp, claiming prisoners at a horrifying rate of dozens per hour. But Calugas, ever the survivor, found a way out. In January 1943, he slipped through the barbed wire by volunteering to work at a Japanese rice mill in Pampanga. This wasn't escape, it was a strategic move. Under the cloak of night, he became a spy, risking his life daily to pass crucial troop counts and road conditions to the brave Old Bronco guerrilla unit. He lived off meager sweet potato leaves, fueled by an unshakable hope for retribution against his captors. In October, he finally made his full bolt for the hills, joining the resistance wholeheartedly. He was commissioned a second lieutenant and actively helped clear Japanese garrisons, fighting fiercely until General MacArthur's triumphant return. When liberation finally came, Calugas weighed even less than he had on that dreadful surrender day. Yet he carried something far heavier than his own emaciated body. Meticulously kept lists of every American and Filipino who had died under his watch. These weren't just names, they were sacred memories, a solemn trust he would guard and honor for decades to come. It truly shows the depth of his character. Finally, on April 30th, 1945, amidst the rubble of a bombed-out Tacloban airstrip, justice was served. General Richard Sutherland had the immense privilege of pinning the Medal of Honor onto Lieutenant Calugas's sun-bleached, battle-worn shirt. For the first time in 3 agonizing years filled with unimaginable suffering and stoicism, Calugas allowed himself to let the tears fall. The official citation read, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty," a phrase that perfectly captured his incredible actions. But with characteristic humility, Calugas always insisted that the real heroes, the ones who truly deserved the deepest recognition, were the countless men who never left the brutal road to O'Donnell, those who perished along the way. That's a profound statement, isn't it? Calugas didn't just survive the war, he continued to serve, staying in uniform for another 12 distinguished years. He raised a family, retired as a captain in 1957, and then, with just 1 suitcase and a modest $200 in severance pay, He boarded a troop ship bound for Tacoma, Washington, but his journey wasn't over. At the remarkable age of 55, this Medal of Honor recipient walked into the University of Puget Sound Registrar's office, clutching his GI Bill papers, and in thick accented English, he politely asked for a seat in freshman algebra. Can you imagine the scene? His younger classmates, seeing this kindly, unassuming grandfather auditing business statistics, often mistook him for a professor. Yet, he wasn't just auditing, he was excelling. He graduated cum laude, a testament to his unwavering determination. He then dedicated himself to the Baton Corregidor Survivors Association, spending his weekends speaking at high schools, tirelessly sharing his story with students who, sadly, had often never even heard of Baton. When asked why he endured the rigors of college so late in life, he'd just laugh, a deep, knowing chuckle, and say, "Because the Death March taught me I can walk forever." What an incredible spirit. For over half a century, Jose Calugas held a truly unique distinction. He remained the only Filipino World War II soldier to proudly wear that sky blue ribbon adorned with 13 white stars, the Medal of Honor. It wasn't until Rudolph Davila earned the same honor in 2000 that Calugas's singular status was finally shared. Calugas himself passed away quietly on January 18, 1998, on a small farm just outside Tacoma, Washington. He was survived by 5 children, many of whom continue to serve our nation in the military or through public education, carrying on his legacy of service. His name isn't forgotten, not entirely. It graces streets in his beloved Iloilo, a gym at Fort Sill where he trained, and a poignant memorial along the very route of the old Death March. And yet, outside the dedicated circles of veterans and historians, the extraordinary cook who dared to man the gun remains, regrettably, largely unknown to the broader public. So, if this is your first time hearing about the incredible Sergeant Calugas, please hit that like button right now. Let's tell the algorithm that this is a story someone else needs to hear. And if you've got a veteran in your family or someone whose bravery deserves recognition, drop their name in the comments below. We truly read every single salute, every single remembrance. So, why does Jose Calugas matter? He matters for 3 incredibly powerful reasons. First, his story proves, without a shadow of a doubt, that heroism isn't confined to a job title, a rank, or a specific role. Here was a mess sergeant, a cook, who didn't just fix a howitzer. He single-handedly stalled an entire advancing army. That's monumental. Second, his harrowing survival of the Baton Death March serves as a stark, unforgettable reminder that human resilience, the sheer will to endure, can, and often does, outlast even the most unimaginable cruelty. It's a testament to the indomitable human spirit. And third, his remarkable post-war life, spent in classrooms, earning a degree, and tirelessly advocating in veterans' halls, demonstrates that true courage isn't just a fleeting moment of battlefield valor, it's a daily choice, a continuous commitment to betterment and service. The United States and the Philippines share such a deeply intertwined history, and Calugas is, quite literally, the living thread that stitched both flags together under the most intense fire, forging a bond that sustains to this day. Take a stroll down the National Mall in Washington, D.C., and you'll encounter majestic, grand memorials honoring the sacrifices of World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. But you won't find a single statue there bearing Jose Calugas's likeness. It's a glaring omission, isn't it? Advocates have lobbied for years, tirelessly campaigning to add a bronze statue of a Filipino scout near the existing Pacific Theater pillars, a rightful tribute to the staggering 260,000 Filipinos who bravely fought under the Stars and Stripes. Yet, year after year, bills stall, budgets tighten, and crucial memories, sadly, begin to fade. Still, every April, a dedicated group of gray-haired survivors, their numbers dwindling, gathers faithfully at the outskirts of the Philippine Embassy in D.C. They raise a weather-worn guidon, a symbol of their enduring pride, and they read Calugas's citation aloud. They do this, hoping that perhaps a few passing tourists might pause, might listen, and might just be moved enough to Google the name they were never taught in their history textbooks. It's a quiet, powerful act of remembrance that demands our attention. History isn't just a collection of facts about what happened. It's fundamentally about what we choose to remember, what stories we decide to keep alive. So please, share this video in a group chat. Tag a history teacher who might be inspired, or just casually mention Calugas' name during your next trivia night. These might seem like small acts, but these small ripples are precisely what keep vital stories like his from being forgotten. If you ever find yourself in Manila, make the pilgrimage to the Bataan battlefields at dawn. You'll find the mist still carries the faint, ghostly scent of gunpowder and carabao grass. And if you're in Tacoma, Washington, take a moment to stop by the University of Puget Sound's alumni wall. You'll see his graduation photo, a quiet, knowing smile among those of CEOs and tech founders, a powerful and poignant reminder that education itself can be a profound form of resistance, a continuation of the fight for a better life. Don't let these stories fade. Subscribe to our channel for more untold stories of courage, the kind that textbooks too often skip. We drop new videos every single week. And yes, we genuinely read every comment and suggestion. So please, tell us whose heroism you want us to cover next. Until then, keep asking questions, keep sharing history, and never forget. Sometimes, the greatest weapon in war and in life is the unwavering courage of one person who simply refuses to quit.